are so excited and delighted that you are here with us today. If you are new, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ashley, your host. On behalf of myself and our entire team, welcome, and we are just thrilled that you are here. We bring top producers from across the nation right here to our studio in Chicago every single Friday, right here at 11 a.m. Central. And today we have an outstanding top producer. I cannot wait for our conversation today and for you to meet her. So I am going to say hello and welcome to our studio, Gracia Barrios.
Thank you, Ashley. I am super excited and honored to be here today.
We are thrilled. Thank you so much for making the journey from Houston. We were just saying right before we went live that Texas girls are in the house because, you know, I'm from Dallas. And I'm just so grateful that you made the journey to be here with us in our studio in Chicago today. And we have a phenomenal show planned for everybody. I can't wait for our conversation and for everyone to hear your story. And then we're going to dive into the pillars of your success. And it's going to be just some amazing teaching moments for everybody. So before we get there, I would love for everyone to get to know just a little bit about you and your backstory. I always love to share some stats about your success, so I'm going to just jump to my notes really quickly because you have accomplished so much in your life. There's no way that I could remember all of it. So let me just share with everybody that you were just named to the top 30 agents across the nation by NAHREP. Congratulations. You are the top 1% in Houston, and actually even beyond that, you're in the top 150. So out of all the agents in Houston, you rank in the top 150. You've been the number one agent at Mark Demas Properties, which is huge. Shout out to Mark. Hey, Mark. Last year, you closed almost 100 units by yourself as a solo agent, which is absolutely incredible. And over the lifetime of your career, you've done about 700 units. So you've built this amazing, amazing business that most agents would dream of. But your life and your life journey has really kind of been anything but a dream. So that's where I'd like to start us, is really kind of going back to those teenage years. So share with us, kind of starting right there at that point in your life, what life was like for you.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. And before I go in that route, because I know it's going to be deep, and before I start sharing with you, I want to honor something real, because all of us have built something. And all of us are in the process of building something, a business, a future, a life. But in that process, achieving all these things, sometimes the expense has been our family, our health, our joy. And I know that because I have been there. So I want to go into this episode opening my heart to you and honoring the time that you're giving us listening to this story, because it's not just about building a business, it's building a life that's worth living. So now going into that season of my life, I grew up in El Salvador, a little girl surrounded by poverty, but I think the biggest thing was the violence that I was surrounded by. Remember those times seeing little kids die from malnutrition, from violence. So those were determining moments for me, because I know that that was part of what I am shaping into my life, into my business. So remembering those times, I was surrounded by chaos, and I just wanted to get out of that craziness. And I was 13 years old, and so I met a guy, and I was trying to escape from that. So I got pregnant and had a baby at 14. But during my pregnancy, my parents had already planned a trip to the US, all of them, my mom, my dad, and my siblings. But now I couldn't come because I was pregnant, and my pregnancy was high risk. So I had to stay. So you can imagine a 14-year-old being pregnant, and now her whole family left. So that was a huge moment in my life, it was hard, but now I'm telling you that story not from the pain, but now seeing the whole perspective. And you're gonna walk through my story as we talk here. And so a year later, my parents were able to accommodate everything, and I was able to come to the US with my daughter. So I was 15 years old. But now I'm coming into the US, a new country with so many opportunities, but my mindset was still in the middle of that chaos. I was just looking to survive. So I got here, started working, and at that point I was about to turn 16 years old.
So, you said the word survive, and that is what was going through my mind as you were speaking. And it sounds like you were in survival mode for a really long time. So when you came to the United States, what did surviving look like for you at that time?
Right. Well, I had a girl. It was a teenage girl taking care of another girl. I loved school, by the way, and I really wanted to go to school, but the reality was that I had to work because my life had changed. So the only job that I was able to find, because I was a minor, was cleaning houses. And so that's how everything began. I started working cleaning houses, but that dream inside of me, it was still alive. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to finish. And so I went to high school at night and kept cleaning houses and going to school. And when I say survival mode, it's because I wasn't really thinking about a purpose or a vision. I just wanted to get out of that craziness. And I think what made the difference in my life is that I was coming from that, but getting into the US and seeing a different environment, especially going to school. Because when I came, of course, my family and my friends, they were kind of in that same type of, situations, but I got to see a different circle. And I got to see what a healthy relationship looks like, because I never knew one. And so I was like, wow, people act differently. And so that's when I think awakening moments started to come into my life. But I was in the survival mode for a very long time. So I think we are gonna, develop the story as we go into the pillars, and you will kind of notice how that life really impacted my life as an adult and as a professional too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
I want to read something back to you that you shared with me. I'm going to give everyone kind of a little behind the scenes moment, because I just thought that this was so beautiful and so vulnerable and authentic. And I just felt like I have to read this on the show, because I know it's really going to touch a lot of people. And you shared with me there were things in my life that were falling apart. I was in survival mode. I was exhausted emotionally, mentally, and physically. And I kept asking myself, there has to be more than this. I was going to college, and one of my teachers asked what was important to me. And the first thing that I said was personal development. And what just struck me when you shared that is, oh my goodness, you could have shared a million other things. When your teacher asked you what was the most important thing to you, right? I mean, just the little bit of the story that you've already shared. I mean, you could have said money, you could have said success, you could have said a million other things, but you said personal development. So I'm so curious to know, what had you say personal development?
I think that was a divine moment. That now that you're reading that back to me, it kind of got me emotional, because I think it was a divine moment. Those moments where God is in the middle of it and is guiding you. Because I had so many questions. I had so many questions because I was hurting.
Yeah.
And everything that happened there, I wanted answers. And especially because I got into this new country with so many cultures and so many ways to do things. And I was, what is the difference? What makes people do what they do? Mm-hmm. Why am I feeling this way? So I started questioning these things, and I had already started reading books and kind of listening to podcasts. And that was a defining moment in my life when that teacher, bless his life, because he really impacted mine when he asked me that question, and he guided me in a direction where it's still impacting my life until today.
Yes. So, would you say that there were maybe different cycles that you wanted to break in your life? Is that maybe what had you say personal development?
Not yet. I just wanted answers, as I said. And so what that teacher asked me was, okay, what's important to you as a personal development? And he said, okay, because you got to do a project. So what I need you to do, since you said personal development, I want you to study Tony Robbins' life. And at that moment, I didn't even speak English, and you can tell by my accent. So, but at that point, it was even harder, and I couldn't even understand Tony because he speaks really fast. But I started listening to him because I had to do this project about his life. What a gift. Because when I connected to his story and everything he went through and how he developed his life and how he was contributing to the world, I got fascinated by his life. And that's when everything started to kind of go deep into his teachings, and I started to have awakening moments. So while I'm cleaning houses, listening to Tony, there is something that really, I would say, shake my life. Because those things that I have hated, judged people around me, I noticed that those same things that hurt me so much, I was not surviving from them. I was repeating them. So, and that was a defining moment because at that point, my daughter's biological father had come to the U.S. as well, and we were trying to build a family. And everything started by, words and just verbal abuse until that day that I ended up in a closet being physical abuse. And that was a waking up moment for me because I knew what I had gone through as a little girl and how it impacted my life. And now I have my daughter seeing the same scenario. And I was like, that was the moment. That was it. But at the same time, what I'm so grateful for is because I had the tools. I kind of had something to look up and have that hope that there was something different. So I got out of the relationship, and getting out from there physically was not just part of it. It was all the healing process I had to go through after that. And that's when I discovered that this was generational change. Because my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, my aunts, everybody had gone through domestic violence. And some of them had got out of the relationship, some had stayed, but nobody had gone through the healing process. And so that's when I took ownership and I said, I'm not just gonna break this, I'm gonna heal it. I'm gonna heal my relationship with men. I'm gonna be wise enough to pick the right man for me because I am, in a way, already responsible for the next generation. And that's what this whole generational thing started to take shape in my life. That was one thing, and the other one was pregnancies. Because from my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, and myself, all pregnant between 14 and 16-year-old. And I didn't know that until I was conscious about that. I was like, wow. And I said, a new story is gonna start with me. My daughter's gonna go to college. She's not gonna get pregnant in that age. And I am super grateful now that I see that those two had been broken. And also poverty, of course. I wanted to create a life of abundance, not just financially. And I know we're gonna talk about that later, but I will say those three were huge.
Well, you definitely created a new story for yourself, 100%. And when you got into real estate, and I'm going to look up my notes because I have more that I want to share with our audience that I don't want to miss, you hit basically every milestone for yourself that you had set. So just as an example, you doubled your production in year 2. So you had started out at around 19 units and then almost doubled at 36. And then by year 3, you were in NAHREB's top 250. So, I mean, you were just breaking and shattering records at just, I mean, record speed, literally. But what I found so interesting, I'm going to give everyone kind of another behind the scenes moment. When we were visiting, you shared with me that you felt so empty. You felt so empty. You were achieving just huge, putting up huge numbers, right? And you felt so empty. And you shared with me that you were building something out of fear and not a business with purpose. I didn't know how to enjoy my life because I was so hungry to get out of poverty. So I'd love for you to share with everybody, when was that awakening moment for you? When did you kind of realize, right? Because on the one hand, you're like, ooh, I'm the superstar, rock star, right? And then on the other hand, you're like, why do I still feel so, ooh, it just brings me to tears really thinking about that you still felt so empty and so alone.
Yeah, I think I was, as you mentioned, I was hungry to have more because I knew what it was not to have. And in that survival, I was still in survival, and I wasn't cautious about it yet. So I was enjoying this because, okay, I'm getting out of poverty and I'm doing more, but I forgot that it wasn't about having or doing more, it was about becoming more. And I think when I got into that point, I was honest with myself. And it was a very specific moment. I do have, and I think we all do, we have those awakening moments that you know that message is for you. That was for me. So that was the first conference in Arab, as you mentioned. I started in the real estate in first year, 19 transactions, then 36, then 48. And we're there in San Diego with my husband at that point. Carlos, my husband, was already working with me. And so we go to this conference and we're super excited. And we were excited for the award. But there was something inside of us that we were disconnected. We were actually building a business together, but we were disconnected emotionally. So I remember we went for a walk that morning and we got out from that elevator. And I'm being very specific because that was the moment. So I get out of the elevator and I see the banner with all the names, the top 250, and there's my name. So now that you know a little bit of my story, you can think what that meant for me. That name there with the 216, but at the same time, I didn't want it because I still felt empty. I felt that if this is it, if this is what brings you happiness, I mean, I'm happy, but I still feel empty. So I remember that day we went for the walk and we walked in separate directions. So he went on one side and I went, we're married, so you kind of know what was going on there. So I went and I was praying and I was thinking, now I feel that life is more than this. It's not just achievements because I'm feeling this. And when we got back, I talked to Carlos about it. And I think that was a very a special moment for both of us. And I said, it's not about building something if the foundation is not there. We are the foundation. You as an individual, I as an individual, and we together. So that's when I started, using tools and things I already learned to sit down and really focus into what I wanted for my life, not just the business, because I have been so focused into achieving things as a professional, but there was more. And so that was the awakening moment for that part.
So you're healing your marriage and you have this awakening moment, and I feel like you were probably going on your path, now maybe looking at your business and your life in a different lens. You were still incredibly focused on your business. You didn't really kind of let up the gas. You were just structuring it in a different way, in the way that you kind of went about it. And then you have this life-changing moment, another life-changing moment, this huge accident happens. So let's visit just a little bit about the accident that happened, and we can kind of pick up from there on how that really ends up changing everything for you.
Absolutely. So one of the things that at that moment, I do want to piggyback a little bit about that tool that I use, because I do want to emphasize that it wasn't me saying, oh my God, I don't want this business. It was a blessing and still a blessing until today. But I use this tool that is very easy to find, is available to everybody, and it's called the Wheel of Life. So I got that tool and I said, I want a vision for every single area in my life. What do I want as a mother? What do I want as a person? How do I want my relationship with God? My finances. So and it was beautiful because now I noticed that my life was a lot more than what I thought. So it's still very focused on the business, but it took a different meaning. So as I was working on that, and I want to say this because sometimes we think that when we have these awakening moments and we use these tools, we think everything's going to change. But it took time because I started working, yes, got more connected to my husband, more quality time with the kids. But it seems like I had everything planned out, right? Now I'm using this tool and I have all these Excel sheets because I'm really good with the Excel sheets, by the way. So I was so much planned into my life that I felt great. And I remember being in conferences where I heard a few coaches said, oh, and by the way, I'm talking about big producers, like the ones we have here in Raw. So I was in a coaching program at that point, and loan officers and realtors were sharing their stories. And some of them were saying, I remember these 3 stories, and they're very, very, very short. So one of them said, I was in the peak of my career, and one day I got home, and my wife left. The second one said, I was doing so great until I got the news from the doctor. And then the third one, that one stuck with me because he said, I had my daughter with me at the office that day, and it was about 6 p.m., and the daughter was kind of like, Daddy, let's go home. And he was like, honey, just one more email. Let me check the email. So he goes to the email, and he goes into his email, like it happens to us sometimes, right? And he forgets about the daughter. So when he realizes it's 10 p.m. and he looks, and the girl is asleep on the couch. So that was a moment for him. So I'm listening to these stories, and I'm like, wow, that's deep, and yeah, I hope that doesn't happen to me. So I had the life plan, and as I said, I hope that doesn't happen to me until that accident. So we were in family vacation, and I was riding a horse, and I fall from the horse. And it caused so much damage into my back, but I was still, some areas in my life was still in survival because I was so trained to be strong, and I had no time to stop. So I said, oh yeah, it hurts. I'm gonna do some therapy, but I'm not gonna stop. I was afraid because I was like, I can't let go because I have all these goals and all these numbers that I have to achieve, and I cannot stop. So after that accident, I went for a couple years in pain, and I was just taking, you don't want to know how much Tylenol I took, and coffee, and I had all my life was planned, but I was not being coherent in what I wanted for me, for my life, for my health. And so that took me into a very hard season where I got pregnant with my 3rd baby by that point, and I had to decide into what I wanted to do because I had lost movement. I mean, I was walking probably, I couldn't be standing for more than 1 minute, I can say that. So the last 4 months of my pregnancy, I was in bed. And so now the doctor said, well, if you want quality of life, you have to go into surgery. Had 1 surgery exactly a month after having that baby. And again, me planning, I said, yeah, because the doctor said in 2 days you're gonna be okay. I said, okay, couple weeks, I'm ready to go. I'll go back to work. 2 days later, after the surgery, I was in the emergency room again because the surgery didn't work. And they delivered the news that I had to go into a second surgery. And because I just had a baby, 1 surgery, and now a second one, there were some complications during the procedure. I had a respiratory arrest, and I almost died. And when I got out from that was another moment that really defined my life because I couldn't move. My body got a contraction from like the entire body. So I would say probably 6 to 7 months, I couldn't move. I was in bed. So if you add the 7 months to the other 4 months, I mean, it was almost a year that I couldn't move. So that was another learning process and another deep process for me, that it was not just the marriage and the kids, but it was my life too.
Right.
You know, so that was that, and that will say that was the most recent season of my life, and I'm so grateful for that, because at that point I was able to see that I had built a business, and I'm so grateful and excited for what we're building, but at the same time it was an opportunity to reshape and bring that into a mission, into a purpose that goes beyond the numbers. The numbers will be there because they are the result. There's no way you can do the work and not have the results. Mm-hmm. But they have to have a meaning, and you have to be conscious about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because I was so automatic, you know, and now I go back to what I told you at the beginning, that now I understand that little girl that was always trying to survive, and she was surrounded by chaos, and she was pretending that everything was okay, and she would go to school and be smart and try to, some way or another, just achieve things. And now here is this professional, you know, not knowing how to take care of myself, how to love myself, and know that I cannot give to others from emptiness.
Right.
So for me, that was, and I'm not saying by any means that God has caused me to have that accident, but the word says that for those who love him, everything works for the good. So something really great came out of that, and it was taking a deep look into that vision in every area of my life, and making sure that when we're building that business, we're not running so fast that we're not looking into what we really want in life. We can get inspired by others, because I am a very competitive person, and I love to be surrounded by producers and people that play at higher levels. But I needed to understand that it was my own journey. So I would say always take the time to know where you're going. Deep inside of you, what is it that you dream of, and what is it that you want, and what that means for you. And then, yes, get inspired by others, because that really helps. But don't forget to live while you're making a living, because that was my message. That was the message to me through that experience.
Yes. So let's go back to, you mentioned the Wheel of Life. I love that. And I love that it's an actual, tool that anybody could find. You mentioned they could find it online. So let's visit about how everybody watching and listening, all the agents who are tuning in today, how they can apply that Wheel of Life tool. What would you like them to really focus on? So let's say that they all, after this show, which I hope that they do, go and Google Wheel of Life and they do it for themselves.
Yeah.
What would you like them to really focus on and understand that they're going to learn through that process? Because this is your very first pillar really in our teaching segment. Yeah. On how you live your life and really how you ended up designing your business. So what is it that you want them to know? Maybe the top two or three things.
Yeah. I'll say when you are taking that tool, make sure that you understand that you're creating a life map, not a life plan, because plans change all the time. But you're going to have a map. And when you have a vision on every area of your life, you will be able to see how they can integrate with what's important to you. So when you create a vision in each area, you have to make sure that they align, because that's the thing. Why did I feel that emptiness? Because I value other things too, that I wasn't putting attention to it. Okay, so what was happening to me was great, but they were not aligned. I wasn't spending quality time. That's actually one of my love languages. I wasn't doing these other things that fulfill my life. And so Tony says the definition of failure is being successful and feeling like a failure when you don't feel that fulfillment. So this tool is going to help you to do that. So when you know what you want for you, what's important in each area, so you develop that vision, and it will align. Because the thing is, we all have ambitions, and that's great. I was hungry. I was hungry to grow, and I would say keep it, because that's fuel. But ambition without alignment can lead to self-destruction.
Yes, that reminds me of something that one of my mentors taught me a long time ago. That is, thank goodness for all of our mentors in our life, right? And I remember her saying to me, Ashley, everybody's strengths can become their weaknesses. And I really had to just sit with that. How is it that our strengths can become our weaknesses? But they can in so many ways. If we do not channel our energy properly, that's when they become a weakness. Yeah. So I'm so glad that you said that. And I hope everyone's going to go check out the Wheel of Life and really map out. I love how you said that, mapping it out, because it's a journey. It's not a plan, because our plans do change all the time and needing to be fluid, right? So I know something else that you really believe in is aligning. I love how you use that word, aligning your ambition to the season that you're in your life. So let's share with everybody today, what do you mean by that, so that they can start recognizing that for themselves, right? Because we are all in different seasons. And we all have different ambitions, and we're all building different types of businesses. So I think it's just important for everyone just to start. I hope what we're doing is awakening them so that they'll start recognizing some of these things. So talk about what you mean by that.
Absolutely. Aligning your ambitions with your season means that when you go deep into yourself and you know those things that you're dreaming and those goals that you have, those targets that you want to achieve, you need to make sure that you also put attention to where you are in life in general, not just as a professional. Because some of us have little kids, some others, they already went to college, some of us are married, some single. So we're in different seasons of life. And the thing is that if we are competitive, then I would say probably people that are watching this are overachievers. And that's awesome. What we have to be careful of is that sometimes we are looking at these people that we admire so much and they're achieving these great things and we want the same. But we want to make sure that what they're achieving and the things they're doing are aligning with the season that we are in. So if we have little kids and let's say we have to work until late, so make sure you communicate that to your family, that you're conscious about. You're not doing it in automatic. Because you don't want to get into the point where you feel that guilt that I think we all parents had it at some point, right? That, I wasn't there, I wasn't present. And sometimes we are there, but we're still on our phones. So I think we need to make sure that we are taking good care of every area. And by any means, I'm talking about balance, because I do not believe in balance. Because it doesn't mean that you're going to have this to give the same amount of time. It means that you're going to give quality and you're going to know what priorities are, and you have to be coherent with your actions. Because a lot of times we say, what's most important to you? Well, my family. Really? Are your actions aligned with that? Are you spending quality time? Are you putting them as number one? And one of the things that I learned through the process is that when you align those things with your season, your business is not going to suffer. Because sometimes we think if I let go, then I'm not going to hit the numbers. Well, let me tell you this. We continue to grow. We have been growing year over year. And actually, this was great because looking at those numbers and those statistics, and something great I learned is that as you become more efficient and get better at what you do, sometimes you think that you are super busy, but you're not being productive. So when you laser focus on those impactful things in your business, sometimes you don't have to work 10, 12 hours to get the results. And I can tell you this because I was analyzing what we did in 2021. We got 296 leads and I got 74 closings. That was 25% closing ratio, conversion ratio. Last year, we got 196 leads and we closed 94. That was like 56% conversion ratio. So you see, and from the year that I started 2018 until last year, we grew 495%. So we're still growing. So that doesn't mean, if I'm talking to you about having a purpose in your life, it doesn't mean that you have to neglect your business. I mean, everything is gonna align, but you're gonna enjoy the journey. Because a lot of times we're achieving things, and we're celebrating in stages, but deep inside of us, there's still some things that we're like, I wish this thing was different. So take the time to be with yourself. A lot of times we're surrounded by so many people on our phones. Take time to be with you. You're the most important person in your life. So take that time and love yourself and think about what you really want. What are your dreams? How do you see your life in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Who's going to still be there, who might not be there? When you ask those questions, believe me, you start thinking differently. And you start enjoying things. You start enjoying the today, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We got a plan. We have to kind of dance between the present and the tomorrow, right? And one thing I said is, if you go to the past, you can go only to visit, right? And learn things. You cannot stay there. So you have to be here and then dance with the future, because it's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
And life is a dance, and I know, referring back to Tony Robbins, because I know we both love what he teaches so much. And he says a lot of times, that business is the ultimate spiritual dance.
Oh, yeah.
And so I want to just take everyone back to the life map that I know there's another word for it. I'm going to call it a life map, but so important for them to do that. Recognize what season that they're in so they can align everything. And then the next pillar that I love, that I'm personally so excited for you to talk about, is innovation with intention. I love both of those words, innovating and being intentional about the innovation. So let's dive into that for a minute, because I really want you to walk everyone through your philosophy. And so your philosophy, which is just so fantastic, is innovation doesn't come from fixing what's broken. It's all about imagining what's possible. I love that.
It.
I absolutely love that. So let's dive into what you mean when you say that, imagining what's possible. And that, by the way, that is one of my favorite quotes. I've had it written everywhere, in every house I've ever lived in: dwell in possibility. Dwell in possibility. So I love this. I want you to dive into this.
And yes, thank you so much. This is one of my favorite pillars. And I want to say that in connection with the first pillar to the second one is that I would like, something you can take today is that for success, 20% is mechanics and 80% is psychology. So that's why you see how Ashley's it's saying those phrases that she has deep inside of her, because at the end of the day, a lot of times we're looking for the mechanics, the how to, but who is leading that? Is our psychology. So the success of a business is in the psychology of its leader. So in connection to the innovation, now you're gonna probably think, okay, so how we bring out ideas? Innovation with intention is more than ideas. It's a skill that you must develop. And you bring it inside of you, and then you pour into your organization and to those around you. So I'm gonna give you 2 keys in this pillar. And key number 1 is learn how to ask deep questions. You're good at that. Deep questions, because the deeper the question, the deeper the answer. So when you dare to ask those deep questions to yourself, believe me, when you answer those questions, new ideas will arise. Innovation, new perspectives, new passions. So now, let me give you an example. What kind of questions? So you can ask yourself, what business am I really in? But go deep, not just, real estate. No, deep. What business are you really in? Your business, you. The other question is, what does success mean for me? Because it can mean so many different things. And even if you said, well, I don't know what success means to me, you already have a belief around success, and you have to find that out. One for me was, one deep question that led me to a new discovery and kind of shape our business was, how can I make my clients become multi-transactional clients? How can I make them come more than once? And I was looking at the statistic, and the statistic said that people move to another house around 3 to 5 years. And I said, so how can I make them come back more? And that's when new ideas arise. And my husband and I had already started working on flipping houses and construction. We're doing investments. And I was like, wow, probably I can teach them what we're doing here. And so you see, innovation came. And so that's key number one. And key number two, remember, key number one is ask deep questions. And then number two is bring outside voices. What do I mean by that? Mentors. You always have to have people around you that are smarter than you. Okay? And what I mean by that is that a lot of times we are surrounded by people that probably are playing in our same level because we feel comfortable around them, because they're always cheering us up. I love when we are in rooms full of smart people, because that's how we grow. So I would say mentors, coaches, but one of the biggest things for me was that when I brought these outside voices, a lot of times they were outside of the industry because they're not programmed to think real estate. They think outside the box because they're, and in my case, there were business owners from different industries. And they see so many things that even though they're in different industries, they aligned. And so they brought some great ideas to me that I wasn't thinking because I was inside the box, right? And they're seeing it from the outside. So I would say that really helps with innovation. And one of the ideas that was brought to me by a professional that's not in the real estate industry is, he said, Grecia, you are really good at sharing how to invest and people how to prepare to buy their first house. And he knew a lot of people internationally that they are during the immigration process, it takes time. We know that takes 2 years, 3 years. And what if we teach the people how to get prepared for that transition? Because a lot of my clients are professionals that are coming with investment visas, and they're coming here, and a lot of times they don't know how the system works. Like, how do I build credit? How do I get ready to buy my first house? So that was an idea that was brought to me by a business owner outside of the real estate. And I started consulting people that are in the transition from other countries. So we have people in Colombia, Mexico, and different countries. And so that was not my idea. So you see, innovation. So first, ask deep questions. And second one, have outside voices. And be intentional about it, because your voices are gonna evolve with time as you evolve with your business. So you have to be intentional, and you can let them know, hey, I would like for you to help me with this. And the right people, they're gonna be happy to help you. They'll be happy to pour into you. And so it becomes a really beautiful community of collaboration.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that word, collaboration. Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, it's almost like having, maybe like a board of directors for your own business, right? And you are hand selecting these outside voices, as you said, because that, I imagine, is going to be super important in who you're choosing, right, into your life, into your business, and who you're listening to, because everything's going, right here. So being really intentional about who those people are. And another thing that I'm thinking of that leads right into this next pillar, which is all about the X factor, yes. Right? So innovation and then the X factor. And I think those two work really well together, because you also have to uncover what your X factor is in order to figure out the innovation piece. And you have these, as you said, back to kind of the spiritual dance of business, having different people that are going to be cheerleaders and champions for you, but also offer different perspectives. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you made that point, intentionally seeking out others who already are massively successful. Mm-hmm. They are where you want to go. Even if they aren't in the same business, success leaves clues, right? Correct. So we're looking for people who already have had success in their life and in their business, mm-hmm. To really pour into us. Because as you were mentioning earlier, I think that could be a struggle for top producers and anyone who's achieving is, mm-hmm. Who's pouring into you? Mm-hmm. You are pouring into everybody else. So I think that's really important to have those people pouring into you as well, emotionally, intellectually, and so on. So let's talk about the X factor and what you mean by that. And another behind the scenes moment I'll give with everyone is you shared with me that you were not born to fit in. And I absolutely love that. And I hope everyone who's hearing us say that, I was not born to fit in, that we just are giving everybody permission to be 100% themselves. 100% themselves, and just really own that. So I want you to teach everybody how can they kind of uncover their own X factor, because I think that also can be challenging. When I call it the zone of genius, you know, when you're in the flow, you know, Tony talks about that, when you are just in the flow and you're in that state and everything is just going amazing, it's sometimes hard for us to recognize within ourselves what we're already amazing at, because it comes so naturally that we don't think that it's a gift or a talent. It's just like, oh, well, can't everybody do that? Right? So talk about the X factor and maybe give everyone watching and listening a few pointers on how they really can start pinpointing that for themselves and then use that in their business.
I love it. I'm so enjoying this episode. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
The X factor, the definition will be your unique factor. Who are you? You see, we're going back to the deeper questions. Deep questions. Who are you? What is it unique about you? What do you dream about? You see, I'm already giving you key points on how to find it, because a lot of times we just put under the rug whatever happened to me or whatever I dream of. It's not important. It's okay. Let's just keep going. And we are getting inspired by all these things that we're seeing. And sometimes we're taking identity and things that we're really not. And so what I mean by unique factor is the DNA. What is it that makes you so unique? And I think it's also an act of being grateful for who you are, because you have your own set of tools. And you don't have to be using someone else. You already have one set. You only have to find them. And so, and a lot of times when you go deep into those questions and see what happened to you in the past, maybe with that, you develop a passion. You're passionate about something. Like for me, breaking those chains. I was like, I want to break that and help others break this generational change and create generational wealth. So when you find that within your story, a lot of people can be doing exactly the same thing you're doing, but it's your DNA. So it doesn't matter what they're doing. So if you think about, let's think about real estate. So if someone thinks about buying or selling a house, if there's not a unique factor, they can think about 5 to 7 people that they probably know, right? Their sibling, their friend that do real estate. But if they know that there is something so unique, something that you're passionate about, that you communicate, they know your values, the way you think, they are more than likely are gonna think about you. Like let's say if I said, let's think about a luxury car. We all think about one, right? One brand, when I think about luxury. So it's the same way, because you have to have that uniqueness and you have to learn how to communicate it, because that's another thing. So what I would like to say that a lot of times we might make that mistake of thinking that unique factor is what we expose to others with social media per se. So if we bring into the modern language, I will say the unique factor is the personal brand, right? So who are you to the world? So in social media, and if you learn the mechanics, remember the 20% mechanics, you're probably so good in social media, and you probably know someone that's really good with their brand and their logos and their name and everything. It's so perfect. But when you meet that person, you feel kind of like a disconnection. It's like, is it that same person? It doesn't align, you see? So it has to be you. Because when you start with within you, you're gonna be able to communicate that everywhere. In social media, in your website, when you meet someone in the elevator, when you're with clients, when you're with your family, because that's you. You don't have to be pretending or changing roles depending where you are, right? So I think that's amazing when you find that out, because now more than a brand, it becomes a mission. Now, there's some tactics. So I went into more like the psychological part of it, but now with the tactics is that you do have, and I think it's a great idea to bring a professional. So you have to bring a professional once you're building that, because my experience was, I remember having like 11 pre-approvals at one point, and I couldn't get none of them under contract. And I had already learned how to go deep in the questions and reflect about things, and I was like, why can't they go in contract? I'm good at this, what's happening? Well, I started analyzing, and some of them were like, well, we're not in a rush, we are living with the parents, and so what I identified there is that I was attracting a different type of clientele. That was not my ideal client. And why was that? Because that was my message. I was attracting them. It was me. And so that's when I brought a professional, and she became a huge part of our business, because then we started directing the message, and we'll still serve everybody. I mean, we're serving everybody, but we are intentional with the message. We want people that want to grow financially, the ones that are looking for a legacy, the ones that they want to start with that first house, but it has a different meaning. Because I'm using the same life map that we start in Pillar 1, I'm using with the clients. I don't just ask them, what kind of house do you want? I ask them, what kind of life do you want?
Yes, I love that. And you hit on a couple of buzzwords for me as well, is passion.
Yeah.
Everyone who knows me knows that I'm super passionate about anything and everything that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so finding your passion within yourself is uber important.
Yeah.
And then that causes you to go deep, which ties into the X factor. And another thing that you just said is analyze, right? I love to analyze. Sometimes I analyze way too much, for sure. But you were analyzing your business, and you were assessing, as you just shared, you had all of these things that were falling through and you couldn't figure it out. But through that analyzation, you discovered that you weren't working with your ideal client. Mm-hmm. And so then now you're going deeper with your questions, and you're asking yourself, all right, what does my ideal client look like? And then you started innovating. So hopefully everyone is seeing today how all of these pillars then started to really merge and work together. And you came up with a really cool program, and you discovered that your message really was that you wanted to help others build a legacy and generational wealth. And you've really innovated lots of programs that you now have put into place to help your clients do that. But every single consultation that you go into, you are speaking that message. You're speaking that message into everybody, even if they're not ready to hear it yet, right? You're planting those seeds. So I think that's super, super cool. Okay, don't go anywhere. I cannot believe this, time flies so fast. So all of our live streamers, don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back, because we have an amazing, amazing book to talk about that Gracia has written. I want her to share that with you. But before we do that, we are going to dive into our Mortgage Minute. So I am now going to welcome to our show a 30-year veteran in the industry, Miss Irma De Leon. She's going to tell you what's going on. All right, Irma, thank you for being here.
Gracia, so as I listened to you today, it was amazing to hear how introspective you were at such a young age. You broke generational sin, which is not easy to do. So, hats off to you on that. And then also one of the quotes that really stands out for me that's like my mantra for my life is the unexamined life is not worth living, by Socrates. And the fact that you gave us permission to say, look, it's okay to look in the past because you're going to learn from it, but be in the present and look forward and plan for the future. And look what you've done. You should be a coach. I'm serious. If you're not, you should. I definitely see that as being your calling. And I also love how you said, one thing that I like to tell my kids is don't be status quo. And that's what you said. I'm giving myself permission to be who I am. So congratulations on your success. What an amazing success. So thank you for coming out here.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
received those kind
and thank you for coming all the way from Houston.
I'm super excited in order to be here.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Hi, my name is Irma De Leon. I'm a 30-year veteran in the mortgage industry, which is my passion, and I'm a single, proud mother of 2 incredible sons. Well, last week we did a buyer strategy, which looked like a renter strategy, and I want to give out a shout out to Christian Trevino from the Alicia Trevino team out in Dallas, Texas, because he sent me a message saying that he executed on that strategy and turned a wannabe renter into a home buyer, and they're on their path to home ownership. So congratulations, Christian. So today is part 2. One of the things that we want to look at, again, last week I mentioned that there's 72% of the renters want to buy a home, but 52% of them don't even know where to start. So that's where you come in and how you can leverage your lender. So think about this. We do open houses, right? Well, how about doing an open house for a rental? And at that point, what you'd want to do is, yes, invite your lender. Invite them in. So this way you have renters coming in thinking that they want to buy a home or rent a home, but maybe never even thought about purchasing a home. So this is a great opportunity to educate them, understand what their goals are, understand the lifestyle that they want to build for themselves, and help them start developing that dream of home ownership. So take the time to invite your lender to this event. I know it sounds a little odd because here we go. Last couple weeks ago, we had one of my loan officers came up to me and said, hey, I've been invited to go do an open house for a rental. What do you think? And I'm like, I don't know either. Does that make sense? Well, the nice thing is that she ended up going, and she came back and she's like, Irma, we met so many potential homeowners and home buyers, and so it was definitely worth her time, and this is why I share this with you. So let's continue to thrive in 2025, and here is to your success. Thank you.
Awesome. Yay, Irma. Thank you so much, Irma. Irma's amazing. I love it.
Yes.
Everybody, okay, DM Irma. I know our production team is putting that up for you right now. Just shoot her a quick DM over to her Instagram, and she and her team would absolutely love to help you. If you've been with us now following our show, I mean, almost every single time, Irma, I love it. It's like the tip that she shares, then the next week she gets to come back as she just did, and she shares the success of someone who actually implemented the tip that she gave. So that's just a huge shout out. Thank you for everybody who's listening and taking Irma's tips and really putting them into action, right? Back to Tony Robbins, who would say massive action. Don't just take the knowledge, actually execute on it. So a huge shout out again to the Alicia Trevino team. Hello, team. They're back in my hometown in Dallas. So that's just so awesome. I love that. Okay, so as we were getting ready to wrap up, which I mean, truly, you know, we could speak for hours because we have. And I absolutely love all of our conversations and what we've been able to share with everybody today. So with the time that we have left, let's jump to this amazing book that you wrote that is now out. Yeah. And so tell us all about it.
Well, I am really grateful for this book, that it was born actually during that time that I was in bed. I promise that I'm working really hard on the translation to English. I wrote it in Spanish first, but this was such a great gift, especially for me, because writing this was looking to my story not from the pain, but from a different place, from peace, gratefulness. And I was able to see so many amazing moments that now I get to share. So yeah, it was written during that time, and the main purpose of the book is to share not just my story, because this book is not about me. I actually didn't want, at this beginning, I didn't want the picture in front, but marketing, you know, they told me why I have to be on the first. But this first book for me has been a healing process, but also a way to continue to impact others, to connect with their own stories, because we all have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. We all have different stories, different backgrounds. We come from different places, but at the end of the day, we all have story to tell. We all have cried, we all have been happy, we all have loved. You know, we all have those moments that take our breath away. And and going into that story and seeing it, not to judge, not to feel anything, but just to enjoy it like an spectator, like you're watching a movie. It's beautiful. So this book is inviting you to do that, to look at the story. And if there is something that needs healing, there are some tools here that really help me go through that healing process, and how everything, when everything aligns, you're gonna see it flourish. Your relationship, your finances, your spiritual life, your relationship with God, your relationship with those who you love. So I think this is it has been a great experience, and it has tools not just for personal development, but also those tools that I use to get better in the business, have the life that aligns with a successful business. And also, we didn't go deep into that, but also has a lot of tools to break those limiting beliefs about finances, about money, because a lot of us have them, or we deal with clients that have them. And so we question our own limiting beliefs, and we are able to break them. We're gonna be able to help others and impact so many lives. So I'm super excited about the book, opening new doors. So when I say be unique, be you, live it and be able to communicate it and enjoy it, because so many things are gonna evolve. Like in my case, right now I'm in a new season. I'm being invited to speak into different events, to talk about other topics that are not real estate related. That was weird for me at the beginning. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm meeting other people. I'm connecting to other stories. So I think that's what's next with the book, translating into English. And I do want to share this with you because it's in my heart that one of the things that been in my heart lately is that I want to get, and we will get, to touch 10,000 families in the next 5 years. And I'm not talking just to sell them a home. Is to plant a seed. Some way they might read the book, or they attend to one of the seminars, or have a message like this. But at the end of the day, we just want to spread the word and make sure that we're touching those lives. That is more than just buying a house, or more than just having financial wealth. We need to be wealthy in every area of our life. We deserve it. Our next generations are waiting for that. And the best way to do it is to live it. We cannot preach something that we're not living, because our kids, our next generations, are looking at our actions. And so I said, be bold to go out there and be the best version of yourself, because sometimes you're diminishing that. You're putting it because you think someone else is better than you. No, go out there, be unique, and believe me, sometimes I'm super scared to stand in front. The first conference I did, it was a whole bunch of business people, and I was gonna talk about something so deep in my story. I was like, they're here to hear about business, and now there's a girl talking about her story. And believe me, that day, what made me go into that stage was thinking, what if there's one person, just one, that's gonna get impacted by this? Am I willing to do it? And I was like, yes, I can be bold and I can be brave to go in front of them, even if the 399 didn't connect with my story, but there's just one. So think about that. There's one person out there that can be impacted by your life. So be bold, be brave, be you, and learn how to communicate it.
Yes, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. Thank you so much. I am just so honored that we had the opportunity to share this stage together, and you shared so many things just right there. You're all about hope and inspiration. And another thing that I heard you say is, don't stay in your story, right? So many people stay in their story. We can't live there. Yeah. What I hope everyone has seen from today is that you analyzed it, you recognized things, you broke chains, you brought in the right people that you needed to bring in to get through, and heal. And healing is always a process, always a process. And we don't heal just one time. We heal over time and in different seasons of our life. I think our life just is a continuous journey of healing. from lots of things, right? It's like you peel back one layer and then there's another one. So I hope everyone takes hope, inspiration. Don't stay in your story. Use it. Use your message to find your X factor and then keep going, because that is what you've done. And you have, like I shared at the beginning of the show, shattered so many records, and you continue to, as Irma would say, thrive. You are just blowing it up, and it's just, I'm so grateful that you're here and that you shared your story, and that more than one person that is watching and listening is learning from you today and everything that you shared. And I hope that they do get that life map and they do start digging deep and asking themselves those really hard questions. And because you know what, I have found that sometimes we don't ask ourselves those questions because we don't want to know the answers, right? We don't actually want to know what the answers are. We want to just stay like our head buried in the sand. So I just want to really commend you for being bold and being courageous and saying, no, I'm gonna open the dark closet. I'm gonna look at what's in there and I'm gonna get better. And that's what you did. So thank you so much for being here. I hope everyone gets your books, or I hope our production team is putting up a QR code to Gracie's Instagram. Please DM her to find all about her book. And I know if you have any questions, of course, you are here to assist. You know, as a top producer, we're all about collaboration, and you want to help anybody who's out there to get better. So TM Gracie, she'd love to help you. All right, so we're gonna close out today. You know that we always love to keep our next top producer just a little bit of a secret, so be watching, you know, over the weekend. We'll put that out, and the best way to find out is to follow us. So follow us on Instagram, America's Real Estate Show. You can follow me, Ashley J. Polito. I would really love to hear from you. Let me know who you wanna see next. Let me know what types of topics you're interested in, so that we can find the exact top producer that's out there in the nation that can deliver the message that you're looking for, because that's what we're all about. So we will meet you right back here next Friday at 11 a.m. Central. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. All right, Gracia, thank you so much. This was awesome. We love being with you. We love being with you. And now we're closing out the show.